back to our latest series of videos or podcasts, or everyone to classify these as today, on Junos Automation. This is the second of two videos of kind of a pair, if you will. And on the last kind of series we did, we talked about network automation in general, kind of more trends in the industry, etc. Today we're going to get together and talk a bit more about specifically what Juniper does for network automation and kind of some of the unique things that we have out there. My name is Oliver Sherman. I'm here today with Mr. Eddie Akiri, who is an architect for Juniper, specializing in automation and network programmability. So kind of how we want to do this is run through a couple of questions that we get and use those as kind of seeds or talking points for things for Eddie and I, and we'll kind of chat through some stuff, and we hope you enjoy and learn something. So we, Juniper, have been doing Junos Automation for a long time, and really due to our service provider heritage, we always had to create some level of efficiency and things to networking. So since something like 2001 or Junos 4.2, we've been doing things with like on-box Slack scripting. Now it's really taking off to the enterprise as you start to hear programmability and SDN and the word software being thrown around pretty interchangeably. But Eddie, in your perspective, or from your perspective, what are the biggest interests you're seeing in the enterprise market around network automation? What I mean by that is, from an application standpoint, what are some of the ways you see this being utilized in the enterprise space today?
Well, the biggest way that I see it being used right now, or the biggest request that we have, is for zero-touch provisioning. It's that initial putting a box in, getting up and on the network, and provisioned in the shortest amount of time, because that's where enterprises are seeing a lot of their time being churned. They're using expensive resources to get that done. So we actually have the ability to pop in an EX, QFX, SRX, what have you, into a network, and through the magic of DHCP and a couple other things, we can actually push a staged config to that device, upgrade the operating system on it and everything. And all it really takes is somebody to rack and stack, power it on, and then make sure the cables are plugged into the right ports, and that device could be up and running in 5 to 10 minutes. And if it needs to have an OS upgraded, maybe a little bit longer. But everything that you want that device to do, it'll be doing within those few minutes. You don't have to have a super technical person out there configuring that device on site. So that's probably the biggest one that we see right now, because it solves a huge problem. And I'm sure from a business perspective, something that you're more familiar with than I am, that I'm sure it's a huge driver, and it's something really good for us to have.
No, and I think that's true, right? I mean, the business side of it, for those of us that have worked for service providers or large enterprises with a lot of locations in particular, we all know that a truck roll is the most expensive things that you can do by either utilizing, a high-end resource, or even utilizing smart hands that, have basic technical knowledge but may not be an architect type resource. It's still more expensive than finding a way to automate that. I think a residual benefit as well is, and as critical as networks have become today, uptime is to the premium that we're willing to rip out a switch out of a closet, replace that with a brand new switch, let it get a automated defaulted, if you will, or a base configuration from the network, and come back online rather than troubleshoot the piece of equipment that's there. And that's one of the things that I think is extremely important today. So from a business perspective, it's both cost and uptime that's really driving a lot of this, and also time to market. I think from a competitive standpoint as well, we have a pretty unique set of things that we can do. I think initially, and the process you described earlier, is something we've been doing since, or not we as in Juniper, we as an industry and technology have been doing since the 80s, which is Pixie Boot, right? Which is utilizing DHCP as a trigger, getting my files off a TFTP server or something like that. But then there's all these intelligent kind of components that we bring in that I think some of our competitors don't allow the customization, and I think that's a real benefit to our customers that have a lot of resources that that will bring them the ROI to make this happen again, having a large number of sites, or perhaps in particular for our partners and for our service integrators, that they can create initial solutions or unique solutions to them. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely, because when you go into every customer, they all want to do the same thing, but they want to do it in a different way. And having the ability to customize that workflow to match whatever the business process is goes a long way. If you have to go in, it's like kind of putting a square peg in a round hole. If you have to go in and put that square peg into a round hole, you can do it, but there's usually a lot of gnashing of teeth and things like that to get it done. But if you have the ability to at least make that square peg rounded off a lot, or maybe even make it fit perfectly, that goes a long way because it saves a lot of time, saves a lot of resources. Yes, there's some technical aspects that have to go along with that, but usually the people that you're dealing with in this kind of thing, they understand what it is that they need to do, and they're willing to learn new ways of doing things, like the Slack scripting on Box and things like that, which is very minimal in that type of situation. But from a technical standpoint, the people are willing to do that because they know that if they can do this, it makes them look like rock stars, right, to the business. So, yeah, having that customization is a huge point.
So, I think we have, well, first of all, we have a pretty extensible API in Junos, which I think is a great benefit to us. But from a set of tools that we have out there, do you want to kind of cover or hit on some of the most popular tools that we have that integrate with our products and, kind of some of the unique aspects that we have there?
Sure. What we've done is we've actually looked at the way our customers do things, what tools that they already were using. Sometimes they're not even using any tools. They don't know what to use yet, which is fine. We help with that as well. But we've also looked at ways to even make our enterprise even more efficient. And we use the tools that we build for automating our network as well inside of Juniper. So what we've done is there are certain customers that want to actually get in there and write code. They've already written an automation framework that they use in-house, proprietary, and they just want to be able to use our tools to talk to our tools that will then in turn programmatically do something in the network. So we have things, NetConf clients that we've built and we support that range from languages like Java, Perl, Python, Ruby, PHP, and a couple others, all the way up to IT frameworks that rely on other abstracted code sets that we've built, things like PyEasy, RubyEasy. So if they want to actually just use the NetConf client, they can do that. But say if they already have an IT framework like an Ansible, right? Ansible uses Python, so they can use PyEasy, which allows programmers or people that don't necessarily know Junos command line the ability to actually not have to know that to get the information that they need for the device or push information down to the device. Now, and a network engineer will also know, be able to use PyEasy because what it does is it takes away some of the programmatic things that you would have to do to connect to the device. So it makes it easier for both the programmer and the network engineer to write these programs that work with the device in turn. And then on top of that, we also have things. So if you have an IT framework such as a Puppet or Chef, we also have those Puppet and Chef agents that run on certain devices that we have, the EX, the QFX, the MX lines. And by doing that, what it allows you to do is take the IT framework of a Puppet or Chef that you've already built for all your server management and deploying servers, and actually get to the point where you're deploying the network at the same time, and you can do that all in the same workflow. So we have those. And then on top of that, or even further beyond that, if you have just an NMS and you don't necessarily want to be in there writing API programmatic type things, we can use things like Space Platform and the applications that ride on top of it, Network Director, Security Director, Services Activation Director. And those come with a canned set of automated tasks that can be done, both to push and pull information from the devices. But the only drawback to those is that if you need something done quickly, changed in there, then you have to work with the vendor, i.e. us, to go out and actually make that change happen. And that could take longer than what your business can handle. So depending on how fast and agile you want to be, you can go all the way from actually manipulating the command line on the device all the way through point and click GUIs that can do the same thing.
So a couple points of clarification. So you mentioned NetConf earlier, and I feel like we should kind of outline what NetConf is. So in just a very high-level layman perspective, NetConf is a way to communicate via SSH to a device that I can programmatically speak to that, via some type of framework. Is that correct?
Yeah. So essentially, it does use SSH, and you're speaking XML. That's essentially what gets pushed and returned and everything. And that's great from a programmatic standpoint, but trying to read or write XML and push it down to a device can be daunting. And that's where the programmability part of it comes in. Things that I mentioned, like PyEZ, actually abstract that away from the user. So even though it's speaking via XML over SSH, otherwise known as NetConf, you don't actually have to know that. You say, I want it to do this, and it turns that into the XML and sends it over SSH.
So kind of you had to kind of walk the path, right? You've got the NetConf component, you've got PyEZ, which then rolls into Python, which then if you want to further abstract and give the user the ability to just really not be exposed to the dirty bits and bytes, if you will, then you further abstract that to something like a Puppet, a Chef, or an Ansible, or even further into other management platforms. Am I following that correctly?
Yes. Yes. So a popular one that is written in Python is OpenStack, right? That could be your orchestration layer. And you can use that to actually provision your devices. You have to go through that certain chain of events. And you can either use OpenStack to write and load the NetConf client in Python on that and write your own glue code between OpenStack and the NetConf client, or you can use the abstraction layers like PyEZ that'll make it a lot easier. So depends on how much code you really want to write. And if you need to do particular things that maybe PyEZ hasn't abstracted yet, then you would have to write that code.
Well, and I think that really depends on your business need, right? I mean, it goes back to, if it takes me, 10 hours to deploy something, then it takes me 40 hours to write the code, the ROI might not be there, so that maybe that determines kind of how much I code or how much I buy and how much does it meet my needs. But, particularly as you get into repeatable models through service integrators or even, customers that have a large number of sites, they have a lot of value in it because it behooves them to kind of make those tools for themselves customizable and exactly what they need, where other folks may buy stuff from, the integrators or folks that can provide that stuff to them that have that talent and that can provide that value that's unique to them.
Exactly. Yep.
So, during our kind of time on the road, talking to folks and kind of, getting perspective on the set of tools we have and what we do, we've heard a couple times that Juniper has one of the largest collection of tools for network automation. Is that your perspective as well?
Yeah. From all the different types of tools that I've used and, different vendors and what they provide, from a network programmability standpoint, we definitely have folds over on the amount. And the reason that we've done that is because we don't want to get into the point where the customer needs to wait on us. As much we feel that the open community and people being able to work together, even if they're not within Juniper, customers working with each other to solve these kinds of problems and things like that. Giving the customer the ability to do that, we have to provide them with the appropriate tools that they're going to use. So that's why we have Python, Ruby, Perl, Java, where we cover the gamut of the languages to try to allow customers to do what they're used to rather than having to fold into what we say you should do. No,
and I think it's absolutely true as well. And the biggest piece and kind of something that we've always done for one reason or another. We've always been very open. I remember we were on site with a partner or customer at one point in the past couple months, and the question was, it was in relation to PyEZ. Do you actually pay attention to GitHub? Meaning, if I did a poll on GitHub, would I, and the partner or customer made a change and they put that back up, would we actually look at that and would we actually consider making that change? And the answer is yes. We're absolutely open. We absolutely help or want the community's help in understanding what they want to see, but also either recontributing back to the library in a very open source fashion, or you could also obviously keep that code and use it as your own unique snowflake/unicorn, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the community aspect of it is very strong. That's the way that DevOps and network operations development is going, is this community rather than being siloed. And they found that if you can actually break down those walls between groups and build this community, things work a lot smoother. People understand the entire service life cycle and how everything works together. So that's why we want to push the community, and we want customers to contribute back to what we have in a positive way, obviously. And if customers build something that they think everybody can benefit from, then by all means, push it back into GitHub. We'll take a look at it, and if it is something that we would think everybody can benefit from, we'll definitely roll it in. We use automated testing to make sure that everything is, the PEP 8 standards are taken care of, and we actually make sure that nothing gets broken when those check-ins happen, and that's all automated. So we're eating our own dog food.
Nice. I think that gives us a definite leg up. So kind of last question we have for this particular series, if you will. But, I think we've talked a lot of interesting things, and, we always get a question of what resources are out there. And I think we've done a good job getting a whole bunch of resources out there, but I think sometimes they're a little bit scattered and hard to find. What do you think some of the best resources are out there for folks that want to learn more about network automation, in particular, Junos Automation?
Well, if they want to know more about the actual languages and the types of things that we support, we have Day One and This Week in Junos books that are available through the Juniper.net website. I believe they're also out on Amazon and those types of websites. We also have our Tech Wiki, which is available on the Juniper.net website, and just the regular Juniper documentation. Everything that I've talked about today, PyEZ, Puppet, Chef, those integrations, all that information is out on the Juniper.net website under the technical documentation as well. And we also have our Google groups, where that's the community aspect of it, where we interact with customers, partners, people that are using our tools, and they have questions or they have ideas. And those are fairly active groups, and we get quite a few forum posts per day. So it's a good place to learn as well.
Nice. I think that kind of wraps it up for today. Eddie, any final thoughts?
Nope. I just hope that as people go along and they try to learn more about automation and everything, that they really get an idea of what it is they want to do, and they pursue that, because I think that automating networks is a huge step, and it's the step in the right direction, because it's the way it has to go.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed the time today and learned something, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.